In this video, I've got a recording of a Skype call that I had with Ron Stefanski. Now, Ron, also known as Professor Ron, is a fellow YouTuber, and on his channel he shares his experiences with creating content websites that are primarily monetized through ads. I do recommend you go check out his channel. I'll put a link to it in a card now, and you'll also find a link to it in the description. You'll also find a link to his website down there too. Ron shares lots of stuff on his channel, including his earnings, which are very impressive. He's often pulling in 5 figures a month from his sites. And as I say, all that revenue is coming from advertising pretty much. During the call, I asked Ron loads of different questions, including how he comes up with ideas for content, how he creates his website, how he chooses his niches. And yeah, we cover a lot of ground, and Ron shares lots of useful information. And I think if you're in a position now where you're setting up an affiliate marketing website, or maybe you're setting up a pure kind of content site that's monetized by advertising, you're going to find this video really useful. So I think we should get started. One quick thing before we do, if you're not already subscribed, just click that button below. Make sure you click the bell and you'll be notified when I upload new videos. And if you enjoyed this video, if you find it useful in any way, please click the like button because that really helps me out. But anyway, roll the tape. I'm joined on Skype by Ron. He's kindly offered to give me a bit of time for a bit of a chat. Just one thing I want to say is if you can hear some banging, some music, Ron has got the builders in right now doing some work on his basement. But hopefully they're going to keep fairly quiet while we're chatting about making money online. So Ron, for those of you that don't know you, I'm sure a lot of my crowd have seen your videos. But if they haven't, could you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and yeah, how you got into making money online.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, Alex, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So yeah, again, as Alex said, I'll apologize, guys. If you hear some banging, just try to ignore it. I couldn't put this off. Alex and I had pushed interviews a few different times, so I decided to go through. But anyway, so my background, so I was in digital marketing at a corporate level for about 7 years. I had done, relatively well professionally with it, and I really wanted to get into the online business thing. And I tried numerous different things, and like most people, just failed over and over and over and over. And then I ended up basically creating a website that, after numerous failures, I created a website that had done pretty well, generally speaking. And it kind of opened my eyes up to, hey, I can actually make a living with this. And it was making money through Google AdSense. So it was like display ads, which is, for me, a lot of people know me from that because that's kind of how I've been making a living with it. So I built one, it started to do pretty well. And then I built that up to get, really big as I could get it. And then I said, hey, let's do another one, and then another one and another one. So now I have a whole portfolio of 7 different websites, mostly display ads, some affiliate marketing or some affiliate revenue as well, but mostly display ad stuff. And that's really how I began, was just, I was doing it as a side gig while I had a full-time job, and ended up leaving my full-time job, I rented out the condo that I lived in the city of Chicago. I moved to an apartment. I literally had cardboard boxes as end tables, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because I just it was like for 1 year I was just gonna bust my butt, and very luckily it worked out. So
that's great. I mean, a lot of people on my channel think that affiliate marketing is a great way to make money online, which obviously it is, and we don't have too much experience with just content-driven sites and just making money through the ads. But, let's just talk about money before we go much further. I looked at your YouTube channel, which, by the way, you will find a link to in the description if you want to go check Ron's channel out. And you do regular income reports. And, yeah, you had a fantastic August. What kind of money can you bring in from a content-based site that's just making money from ads?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because most people, display ads in general, most people think that they're not going to pay much because they see you get paid 25 cents, 30 cents a click, and it's really not that much money. But the key is with content websites like what I have, when you're getting thousands of clicks a day, that ends up really adding up. So, depending on the month, I think I've hit as high as like 25,000 in a month before, and it's a whole portfolio of websites, to be clear. But I think I've hit the highest was about 25,000. That was all things included, not just the display ads. If you're looking at just the display ads, like right now, like 15 to 20,000 a month across the whole portfolio. Wow. So it's a significant significant amount of money when you have enough traffic. So yeah, for me, like I said, that's been the way of making my living pretty much, and buying the house that I'm sitting in right now. That's basically what's done it. So there is definitely revenue there.
That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit more detail about these sites and putting them together. So I guess the first thing to come up with, the same as with an affiliate site, is how do you choose the niche or the niche for my UK friends? How do you go about choosing a particular subject to write about and create a site about?
Yeah. So for me, I think most entrepreneurs, there's never a shortage of ideas, right? You always you'd be
surprised. I get asked. That's one of my most common questions: is how do I choose a niche, or can you help me choose a niche, or do you have some niches that I can use? I think a lot of people do struggle with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, to me, it's not. To me, there's quite honestly, I have way more ideas than I'm willing to take action on, because I know if I take action on too many at a time, I'll probably fail. So generally speaking, when I'm looking, first thing I'll do is if you just notice your everyday surroundings and things that you're dealing with every day, in that time, you're generally going to find a lot of different ideas that probably you didn't think of before. And also like Facebook groups has actually been a really good place. Just conversing with other people, you see a lot of things come through that you're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. Like, there's just so many different ideas out there. So what I do when I'm starting a site, I'll focus on, 2-3 topics and think, okay, these are the 2 or 3 I'm kind of kicking around. Generally speaking, I try to get a domain that is high level, like if it was about sporting equipment or something, it wouldn't be about baseball specifically, it'd be about all sports. I try to keep
you go quite broad.
On the domain name. And then within the content itself, I'll segment down to the specific areas. So if I had a sporting equipment website, for example, I would focus on baseball equipment, 100% for maybe the first 6 months or 3 months, or whatever it is. And then once that starts to do well, then, when I'm seeing an opportunity to grow, I would transition to hockey equipment or soccer or football or whatever. Okay. So I like to do that. But yeah, picking the niches themselves. For me, it's everyday stuff, and just being active on Facebook and social media. I just see so many things come around. And then the biggest thing for me that I don't think many people overlook this, and maybe you've talked to some people that do, but generally, I think the keyword research is probably the key to the whole thing. Yeah. For me, I like to spend a lot of my time doing keyword research, and I do a full keyword research data dump where I just research thousands of ideas related to that.
Here's the drill.
Yeah, sorry guys. But yeah, so I'll
we can edit this out. We can edit this out.
Okay. So I'll dive as deep as I can into the drill, right to the drill.
Yeah. That actually leads me on. That leads me on nicely to my next question. So, which was basically, how do you come up with ideas for content? Because you obviously need a lot of content for a content site. That's all it's got. So, you mentioned doing keyword research. Is there any particular tools you'd recommend to do that, or do you just use Google Auto Suggest? Where do you start?
Yeah, I'll say an interesting one that I don't think many people have heard in a long time. I actually still use Longtail Pro.
Okay, wow,
so that was one that's
still going?
It's old school. It's still going. So I actually used that because I got a lifetime deal years ago. It's it was $250 at the time, best $250 I've ever spent. So I still use that, but I also I do use Ahrefs when I'm doing my research. And the way that I do it is I'll look at the Longtail Pro data, I'll look at the Ahrefs data, and then I marry it into a spreadsheet. And I'll look at the competition of both, and I'll look at the volume of both, what each tool is saying. And I do that because if I find a consistency that there's a really low competition on both of them, and a decent search volume on both of them, then there's a good chance
that's the low-hanging fruit, as it were.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Do you see much discrepancy between the two tools in terms of data numbers? Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I was just on a call yesterday with some people that I know, and I was just talking about how terrible keyword tools have become because the jump shot, I don't know if you know all the data about jump shot and how the keyword data was basically pulled from everyone. Do you know about this?
No, what's this?
Okay. So a lot of keyword data aggregators, for years, they were using a platform called Jump Shot. I always thought that they were getting their data from Google, an API.
No, that never happened.
Right? Yeah, so that's what I thought. So they were using a third party called Jump Shot. And I found out yesterday through talking to some people that what JumpShot was this company was buying up a bunch of Chrome extensions, so Google Chrome extensions, and they were somehow mining keyword data within that to get the search volumes and to get those numbers, which is pretty crazy. And then
sounds a bit dodgy.
Yeah, and then that's what happened. So everybody found out about it. A lot of people found out. There was a lot of complaints about it. And then JumpShot, which is part of a bigger company, I don't remember what bigger company, but they're part of a bigger company, so they got shut down. So because they got shut down, everyone's like, we don't have keyword data anymore. So that's the scary thing. So a lot of these platforms are relying on a little bit older data now. But that's like what's so interesting. Ahrefs, how they just recently said, hey, we're going to open up like to the Webmaster Tools thing. I don't know if you saw all that news.
No, I did a video on that just the other day, actually. The free tool they're now offering,
Yeah. So they're offering to do that, and I think one of the biggest reasons is they're trying to get the keyword data, because there's really no other way to get that data accurately anymore. So
no, that's true, and Google are never going to share that data, are they? And I mean, back in the old days, we used to have the Google AdWords keyword tool, which used to give you some rough numbers and.
Yeah, I remember that. The good old days. Now it's
you can still use it if you've got an AdWords account. But obviously these tools are working for you. But I guess you get some surprises sometimes, maybe when you create a bit of content that didn't have any volume in the keyword tool, but then you put this bit of content up and suddenly you're getting quite a bit of traffic for it. Have you ever found that?
Yeah, quite a bit. I'm a big fan of using like question keyword data is a big thing for me. So I'll also use there's one that's called Keyword. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
That's we have heard of that. Yeah. I think they've rebranded. I think they've dropped the swear word.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't even know what they're called now, if they did, but I like to use them too, just because they'll throw all the Google auto suggests at you, right? So I like that. So I'll still use that, but I do find plenty of times that the data that they provide is very, very far off, and especially those like, oh, there's only 10 searches a month. That could be 1,000 searches a month, but like, because it's not just that one term, right? You're seeing one term, but it's every little variation of that one term being searched. So those really do add up. And I built entire websites like answering questions, like literally answering questions. Like this is the question, and then do a blog post about it. And those do really well because they're usually a long tail and everything too. So,
but if you've got a very specific question, like I don't know, how wide does a soccer goal need to be? Do you write 1,000 words about that, or do you not?
So that is a little bit different, because for me with the Google, how they have the box up at the top and everything now. So like that's something that I think that you have to look prior to spending all the time to write it. You would definitely want to look at that and see if that's just a quick answer in their knowledge graph.
Because the answer would just be presented on Google, and there's no need to click through to a site.
Yeah. So it kills the whole idea, right? So I usually will do that, but yeah, when it comes to that, like if there's just something that simple, no, I'm not going to be writing 1,000 words about that, because I don't even know unless you're going to talk about like junior soccer versus the professional size. There's just not much to write about. But in something like that, if you can get a full article out of it, then I'd write it. But something like that, that's not really a good example of like the type of question that I'd want to answer. So
okay, so you go for questions that need a little bit of a more in-depth answer.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll include this in the subheadings. I'll include something like that as one of the questions answered within the document, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's good. So, talking about content and creating content, do you write all this content yourself, or do you use some writers?
I haven't written content in a long time, Alex. No, I couldn't possibly. I mean, like I said, I have 7 different websites at this point. So I do have writers for every single one of my websites that I own. On the 1 Hour Professor website, which is mine, I do a fair bit of writing there. That's like the one spot that I'll do it. But everywhere else, for the most part, I have writers that are on staff. And like some people will order their writing in bulk, right? They'll get 100 articles at once, or 200 or 500 or whatever. What I do is I just hire a writer and I say, okay, you're going to contribute X amount of articles per week. And I just build up a long-term relationship with them. I like that approach because it can kind of tweak them and they learn as they go. And then they kind of learn my style. And then it's like, hey, we're off. And then usually you could just, turn that knob up and get more content out of them if you need it, or turn it down if you need to reduce cost. I like to do that. And then I also have an editor that edits most of my sites. I have 2 editors, but one that edits most of them. And she is just in charge of, the writer will take it, They'll submit it into a folder. The editor will then take it. She'll review it. She then takes it, puts it to another folder, and then a virtual assistant will take it and post it. So I'll do that keyword research. I'll do that whole keyword research data dump in the beginning. And then by the end of it, I finally see the content when it actually gets published. I don't even really look at it too much anymore.
Wow, that sounds perfect.
Yeah. It's a good system once you get it going.
Let's talk a little bit about writers a little bit further. Let's go back to the beginning. So how did you originally find your writers? Because I've just found the whole process quite a bit of a gurn, really, because there's a mixed bag of writers out there in terms of the quality and the costs and all kinds of things. So where did you start to find your writers, and then how did you kind of vet them, and how did they end up becoming part of your team?
Yeah, so the way that I usually do it when I'm looking for a writer, I use Upwork. I mean, pretty standard. I've used what's called ProBlogger before, their job board as well. The person I got there was just like 5 cents a word, which for me is like, wow, that's pretty expensive, because I usually pay like maybe around 3 cents a word, like 2 to 3 cents typically. That's typically what I will spend. But when I went, there's certain websites that require more expertise, right? So you got to pay more. But usually I go to Upwork. I would hire writers. I would put the job out, and I usually will say, hey, you have to be fluent in English, right? It has to be your native language. And then what I'll do is I'll hire 3 people, and I'll give them all the exact same topic. And then I'll base who I choose to continue on with whoever does the best with that particular piece of content. So for me, that's the way to kind of vet them and see who does what. And then in the application, I always say make sure you say orange apple in your response, because that's going to indicate that you actually read everything. Because you get the people who just copy and paste the template. I'm like, I'm not interested in you, because I want someone who's actually going to be invested in it. So for me, it does take time to find a good writer. There's been a few times when I've had to do that process like 2 or 3 times to find a good writer. But it's definitely worth spending the extra money on those articles that aren't so great to find the right writer, for sure.
Yeah, because then you can build that relationship with them. That sounds perfect. So, we just talked about, briefing writers. How much do you give to your writer in terms of the brief? Obviously, you do all the keyword research and say, I want an article on this. But then, how much detail are you saying? I want these subheadings. I want a table. I want these. I don't know. What kind of detail are you giving them?
Yeah, so I used to give full article briefs for content, and that was just kind of a slog. I was the thing that was slowing everything down. I became the problem in that because I have so many other things I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I'll do my keyword research, the keyword data dump as I call it. I'll put all the keywords into there, and then what I'll do is this is hard to even explain, but I'll look for possible subheadings to the articles that I'm going to be writing. At the same time, I'll do all the keyword data dump, I'll dump it all, then I'll look at possible subheadings. And basically in a Google sheet, I'll have, here's the main topic, here's subheading 1, here's subheading 2, here's subheading 3. And I pretty much at that point, I'm like, you take it and run from there. But by this time, they've already gone through a month, or, 3 weeks of me kind of being over their shoulder and criticizing everything that they've written. So usually for me, that works pretty well because it's a way of doing those article briefs kind of in bulk, because doing one for each time wouldn't be possible. But that's usually how I do it. And that typically works pretty well for me. Because the thing is with these content sites, if you're looking at an affiliate site, you have to I feel like there's usually going to be competition there. It can be harder when you're doing a content site like I have. Then a lot of these things, there might not be that blog post out there anyway. You know what I mean? It might have never been established before or written about at all. So that's why that really works really well in that kind of stuff. But I'm working like 1 hour professor. I'm working and, I'm doing a full article brief for myself before I actually write it, and I'm writing it. So it depends on what niche it is. In this niche, I have 1 hour professor, I have to do it. But in some of the website ones, I don't. So.
No, because the competition is so low. And actually, that is the kind of approach now with affiliate sites, especially when you're driving traffic through content, is there is loads of topics and stuff to write about where there isn't much already out there. So you can move in quite quickly. Which brings us on to, getting traffic. And I guess you get a lot of your traffic from organic search. So apart from doing the keyword research and creating content, is there any kind of off-site stuff that you do to promote your site? Do you do any link building, any guest posts, any of that kind of thing? Any social media?
Yeah, social media. So what I always do, pretty much every site that I ever start, I always, at this point especially, will create a Facebook group. almost every site, because my approach to websites, especially these content ones, usually it's around something that people are passionate about or a problem that they're having. So I like to create a Facebook group to give that community feel to it, because then it's like, hey, join the group, join the community. It's more than just a website, right? So I really like to do that. So that's one thing that has helped, because you gather a group and then you start to really gain influence, and that you're the person that put it together. So you're the one who knows everything, which isn't necessarily true.
Just
but
quickly on that, does that bring an overhead though? Is there like a moderation and admin kind of thing?
No, because it did the first time I did this years ago. It did. It doesn't anymore, simply because the Facebook tools, they have a lot of tools now to help moderate that. It's actually gotten a lot easier when it gets really large. So I had one Facebook group that got really large. What I did was, you can see the most active members. So I just went to the most active members and I was like, hey, would you be willing to be a moderator? And they're happy to do it.
Yeah, they get a little badge next to their name and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So they get that. And then what I did is, around Christmas time, I'd send them each a $25 gift card. Like that was it. So yes, I guess technically a little bit of overhead, but very, very well worth it. So I'll do that. And then, the other thing is, I'm a big proponent of link building, big time. I always do link building. I typically will do guest posts, but I've done all different kinds of link building. I'm not like a black hat guy, but I've done, skyscraper content, and just, creating good resources, sharing it with people, trying to get links that way, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm a very big proponent of link building. Some people say you don't need it. I know some people have, good luck without it, but I just think it adds fuel to the fire when you do it. So
yeah, of course, I think it still is valuable, but it is something that a lot of people don't want to do. It seems like a lot of hard work. Is that a task that you do yourself, or is that something else that you can outsource?
That's something I do for myself, because I don't trust anybody to do the backlinking. I will, if I'm doing like guest post backlinking, I'll outsource parts of it to help me to like creating an article brief and that sort of thing. Like I'll outsource certain parts of it, but generally speaking, I will actually do the networking and outsourcing, because it's good to have that relationship anyway. Because you may need a guest post today, and then who knows, a year down the road, you may do another website or something, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I need another guest post. Oh, I can turn to this person I ever have a relationship with. So
yeah. So is that, you mentioned networking, so is that what, going into spaces, online forums, groups, just getting involved and making relationships with people that have got similar sites or sites in the same space as you, and then hopefully the opportunity then arises that you can give them a bit of content?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, I'll do that. I like to, when I'm starting a site out, I'll just look for sort of sites that are in the niche, or, in a shoulder niche, if you will, that are somewhat related, that are already, have already said that, hey, you can write for us or you can contribute to us. I'm actually a fan of that, because I think that once you do that once, some people in the industry will see you, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you can approach people through email and such. You can approach other people that maybe aren't really, saying that they're willing to do guest posting, but all of a sudden you approach them, you're like, hey, I've written here. They see your examples, and then they're like, oh, this person's actually a good writer. Like, he's not just phoning it in, right? Yeah. So when you get to that point, then they're like, oh, well, maybe I should let him, guest post here. So that actually works pretty well too. But yeah, I usually will go for the ones that have already said we're willing to accept, and that typically will lead to more opportunities, as long as you're, out trying to get those other opportunities. So.
Okay, that's all really useful stuff. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So in terms of the actual development of the site, do you build up the sites yourself, or do you have a web developer that you use? How does that work?
So that is a tandem of Ron, the web developer, and an actual developer. So I use, I'm a big fan of Thrive themes. I know some people like them, some people don't. I'm a big fan of Thrive themes. And they have, their tools, generally speaking, make it pretty easy for me to create a website. Like when I launch, I can just throw the theme builder on and it's pretty much there. The thing is, in the beginning, and I think this is a huge mistake that many people make, I put so very little effort into a website in the beginning, because in my opinion, the look of the website pretty much doesn't matter, because no one's even looking at it anyway, right? No, so I actually spend most of my time focused on just getting the site up like a minimum viable product, right? And getting it up to where it's decent, a text logo that's like something typed out. And then I just focus on the content. And usually the content will then bring the eyes. And then at that point, it's like, okay, whatever, 3-4 months in, we're starting to get some people. Let's do a quick redesign. And then you can do something that's actually nice.
And jazz it up a little bit, yeah. Yeah, I've just discovered Thrive, actually. I've just been doing today in my live stream, and last week I do a Thursday afternoon live stream, by the way, if people haven't seen it. And I've been building an affiliate site with Thrive, just testing it out. And by the way, you'll find a link to Thrive in the description of this video. It's an affiliate link. Thank you if you use it. But yeah, I'm loving it. It's really good. Although there is obviously a handful of page builders available now for WordPress. It's not like back in the old days where you had to use shortcodes and lots of other horrible codey things. But yeah, you can literally get a site up in an hour, can't you?
Yeah, you can get it up really quick. And I will say, Alex, too, like anybody that's like on the fence about Thrive, like honest to God, best thing I ever did for my business. Like I know, there's all these different builders out there, but I got married to Thrive in the beginning because it's not just the theme builder. It's all those other tools that they give you that, like an A/B tester and like a thing to get leads, where if you buy their whole toolbox. So if you do that, then you get all these other tools that'll help you marketing. So those other theme builders, they're focused on theme building and what I think they're just as good, frankly. But the real key to me is all those other tools that you get with Thrive. So yeah, I'm like a huge fan of Thrive. I have been ever since, for years, because I remember in the beginning I was on WordPress, I was like with a crappy theme and I had no idea how to code, and I was really struggling with it. And then I found Thrive. I was like, oh my gosh, you can just drag and drop. It was just the coolest thing ever. So I like that. Are you using the Thrive theme builder right now?
I've got the theme builder and I got the architect. I haven't got the monthly subscription. I guess that's what you've got, where you get the full toolbox. I just literally bought it just to play with. But yeah, some of the other tools look really good. They've got the A/B, they've got a survey or a competition one, haven't they? And a whole host of things that does look interesting. I'm just at the moment, I'm just going through a kind of series of just trying out different builders. I mean, the one thing that seems to be a problem with page builders is the effect they have on your site speed. But I haven't seen such a big issue with Thrive. For example, Elementor, which is a very popular one, is quite slow in terms of Google page speed scores and all that kind of thing, which is going to have a big effect on SEO, I think, especially next year.
Yeah, Thrive. Yeah, I'll tell you, like Thrive. The Thrive Leads is very, very good. I'm a really big fan of that because you can do A/B testing within it. So I do have you said the monthly thing. I have the annual thing too. I think we're on the same. I'm not really sure which one, but I think we're on the same thing. Where you get annually and then you get the whole toolbox. But yeah, the A/B testing, it just in general, it pays off in itself, because if you're able to get more people opting into your email list, just that alone, if you're doing it right, you can make money off of that, and that's where it's totally worth it for me. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Thrive.
So would you collect email addresses from all of the sites that you create on your content sites? Do you build a list off each one?
It's hard because some of them, and I don't disclose on my sites publicly, like some of them really, because they're informational like content sites, there's really just not that much to sell. That's just the reality of like some of the niches that I'm in. Some of them are fine, but other ones it's like, no, this is really just informational. So I typically will try to get people to opt into an email list. I've actually found with one of my sites, which is a complete display, one of my biggest one, I actually have a lot of like opportunities and things that people just don't even think of in the niche. And I put them into my email list, and they go through like, I think it's like 50 different emails is how many they get. And it's a content site. So some of it's just like, hey, here's a helpful resource for you, right? It's not even really an affiliate thing. It's just like, here's a helpful resource, because I'm thinking, well, hey, if they click over and they click on an ad, at least I make some money. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of ways to make money with it. But yeah, in most of them, I will be collecting emails. And I will say, I mentioned earlier how I like to use Facebook groups when I build a site. If you're looking for a great opt-in for an email list when you just start and you have nothing else, you can just use your Facebook group and become a part of the community. People will opt in just for that because there is definitely some value there. So I typically will do that. And most of them, yes, I will collect emails. Some I'll push harder than others if I have a real product that I'm pushing or something. But yeah, I always collect the emails because it's just valuable to have. And then when I figured out a way to monetize it, then I'll push a lot harder on collecting the emails.
Okay, is there any software you'd recommend for email?
I've tried quite a bit of them. I've tried a whole lot of them, and the one that I really like is called Active Campaign. It's the email.
Yeah, I've heard of Active Campaign. Yeah, I've not used it.
Yeah, so I've tried like all of them. I mean, I did not all of them. There's a lot of them, but I've done like quite a bit of them. And the reason why I liked Active Campaign was it was reasonably priced. It was a tiny bit more expensive than like Aweber and the other guys. It was a little bit more expensive, but there's so many capabilities there to segment your lists with tags and different autoresponders and different things that was far beyond anyone else that I could find at the time. I don't know if other ones have gotten better, but there were so many at the time.
There is tools that do that, I mean, but they are expensive. So, for example, I've used Infusionsoft before, which is a lot of money, but it does have that power to really segment and kind of draw like these fantastic kind of flow charts and guide people through. So if they visit your site, they get this email. If they go to this page, they get another email, and very complicated stuff. But I think it's probably too much for most people, to be fair. A lot of people just want a system that's quite easy and that actually has some reasonably good deliverability, because I've noticed that a lot of platforms now, you can struggle to get all those emails through, especially to places like Hotmail, Gmail, Outlook. Only needs one or two bad customers on their platform, and then the whole server gets banned.
Yeah, and I know Infusionsoft can be pretty costly, but yeah, ActiveCampaign. I mean, it's not the cheapest one, but it's definitely not the most expensive one. I think it's like kind of like in the middle / a little bit lower cost. And they have kind of what you were talking about, those crazy flow charts, and it's nice because in the beginning you don't even need that stuff, right? Like in the beginning you just need one, and it's really simple. But then when you're thinking, okay, well, how can I segment this and how can I do this? They have the ability to expand into that, which is why I like them so much.
That's really cool. We're nearly done. I mean, we've been talking for a good half hour at least, which is fantastic, and you shared some really great information. Just a couple of other little kind of questions. So going back to the content, I think content, needs things other than just text. It needs images, videos, maybe other kind of rich media. Do you have any resources for those? I mean, obviously there are stock photo sites, but what kind of images and media do you add to your content, if any?
Yeah, so with a lot of the sites, to be honest, I'll just have the featured image, which is sad and pathetic. I actually agree with you. I think it, depending on what you're in, I think that
it's okay.
That one was a little too much. Sorry about that. I think that you can get some really good stuff, and it's a good idea to have like certain graphs and things in there, because it actually will build backlinks for you. I really think that that's true, because I know like when I write posts, I'll sometimes grab a graph from somewhere and then I'll cite it in the content, right? So that really does work. But I haven't, frankly, built that. I think that that's a good thing to have. It depends on the niche. Like with my own main website, One Professor, I'm gonna start to do more of that stuff, like the original images, because it really does build backlinks, and I think it adds a lot of value. But I'll do that, and then again with the same website, I'll do. I usually will do like my YouTube channel kind of pairs with my website. So I may do a YouTube video that really is going to be really complimentary or like very similar to the actual blog post, and I'll put those two together. So I'll do that. But usually with like the portfolio sites, I don't usually have a ton of images. I just mostly focus on text because that's kind of how I built them in the beginning. But there is definitely an advantage of doing that. I just quite frankly haven't, because it's hard to source all the original images.
Yeah,
I'll use some stock photos.
Yeah. So your featured images, are they just generally stock? I mean, I've got a subscription to iStock Photo. That's pretty handy. But there's also free stock images available, isn't there? But then the problem with stock photos is that they look like stock photos, don't they? That's the
Yeah. When I usually do the featured image, I'll edit the photo somehow and do some type of overlay and like the title of the post or something to make it more like visually appealing. And that's pretty much it. Like I don't just take a stock photo and copy paste and that's it. Like I don't do that. I do have like a filter thing that I put on it to make it look a little prettier and like put some text on it. But other than that, that's pretty much it. But yeah, if anybody's listening, like, hey, should I? Like, yes, put more images in your
media and videos and whatever else.
Yeah, no, it's good to do. I'm guilty of not doing it. That's all it really is.
Obviously still working for you. I'm talking about stuff that's working and not working. I guess you're running analytics on your sites. When you go in to check your analytics, is there anything in particular that you're looking for? Do you maybe drill down into the content, see what's working and what's not working, and then once you see that, what do you do with that data?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, and something I push on quite a bit with people. I'm pretty analytical when it comes to keyword research, when it comes to anything. I literally will tell people I don't care what you think, I don't care what I think, I care what the data says, because data doesn't lie, it just doesn't lie.
No.
So I actually spend a lot of time looking at my analytics. Every day I'll go in there and pop in quickly just to see kind of what's going on. But anybody that's starting out, I always say to look at your top 10 pages right away in analytics and look at what those are doing. And then if you're not making a lot of money, like focus 100% of your effort trying to squeeze every drop of revenue out of those 10 pages, because that's where most of your traffic's going to be anyway. So I usually do that. And then after I get and see some success and find out the topics and the themes that are doing well, then I will, it's like, oh, this is doing really well. I will expand on that and, try to create content around that. I also like to use, and not many people talk about it, but the Search Console, Google Search Console. I'm in there more than in analytics, because like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm looking at Ahrefs for your Search Console. It's like, no, your Search Console tells you everything that Google sees pretty much. So I spend a fair bit amount of time in there, but I'll usually look at the acquisition. So to find out what sources I'm getting traffic from, that would be the number one thing. And then number two would just be the behavior, to see where the users are going on the site and understand how long they're spending on each page and that sort of thing. And if I test something, there's a handy little tool that not many people know about in analytics. If you look where the graphs are at the top, there's a little like plus button. You can press it, and you can add an annotation, which is really nice.
So this is something. So when you make changes to your site, you can then
just a
see
small
the effect
change
of that.
Yeah, and I've done that plenty of times where I'm like, okay, this page I updated to maybe include more media. So I do that, and I'll put it in analytics, and then I'll remind myself, hey, in 2 weeks, go back, and then I'll look how much time did they spend on the page. Did they take any more action? And doing that, on those main pages, that actually has a huge impact. And you can really see, because once you find that out and you figure out, hey, this really worked here, let's roll it out to the other top 10 pages or site-wide. So I'm a big fan of like those little A/B tests. Those, especially on your more popular pages, can yield some really big results for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I used to do a lot of this kind of measuring and stuff when I back in the days before I was doing this, when I had an agency, I was doing it for other clients. The thing I always found is that you do need fairly big numbers in order to get any kind of statistical significance out of these things. A/B testing or that. A/B testing, for example, won't work if you're getting 100 visits a day or whatever. That's just not enough to really draw any conclusions. But I guess, once you get to a point where you are getting some good traffic, you can start really getting involved in all this fun analytical testing and stuff like that, which is really good. And you mentioned Google Analytics. That's probably the best for most people. They don't need to pay for analytics, do you? No one does anymore.
No, you don't have to pay, and it's free, and they have really good data. And you bring up a good point. I mean, I'm talking about a site here that has 4,000 or 5,000 people a day going to it. So
you got good numbers, you get good data, you can play with that, and you're going to see.
Yeah, exactly. You get the data quick, and then you can figure out statistical significance. So yeah, that's absolutely true.
Cool. So let's just wrap up by talking a little bit about the money again. So I know that you've used Google AdSense. I think that's how you started out with Google AdSense. You've recently moved with Ezoic, is that right?
Yeah, that's a whole different tangent if you want me to get into why that happened. But yes, I know.
No, I think we'll brush over it. But basically, if you check Ron's channel, you'll find some videos all about what happened with AdSense, and something changed with them, and that meant that Ron had to change some things.
Yeah.
But what's your approach to placing ads on your sites? I mean, I hate ads. I just hate them, and I just think they make your site look messy and all the rest of it. And I know, for example, with Ezoic, they like to place the ads for you. They like to kind of take your site and they'll do their AI stuff, and they'll just stick ads all over the place. I just wondered, what's your approach? Do you manually place some ads, or do you just let the ad networks do their thing?
So when I was with AdSense, it was I just told you how I did A/B testing. I did a lot of A/B testing to figure out what ads, and I would test it different sizes. I'd test link units. I'd test all these different things. And thank God I switched to Ezoic, honestly, and I'm just saying that because like they do the same thing, except they do it on every single page view, and they do it thousands of times to find what is the best layout and things. So with Ezoic, what I found, what you can do is you can basically put I don't remember exactly, like ad test area, right? And what they'll do is their machine learning will then put in different ads, different ad sizes, and every time you reload the page, it could be something completely different. And it does make the site a little sloppy. It's not ideal, but if you're trying to make a living and you're doing it off of ads, that's kind of what you have to do. I used to do a lot of A/B testing before completely. Now with these people that are out there, the agencies and such, they do it all, and it's amazing because they've been able to out-earn me, obviously, which makes perfect sense because the machine's doing all the learning, right?
Yeah.
So they've been able to out-earn me pretty significantly, and they will put ads. It depends on the page load. Sometimes it's great. But like with Ezoic, one thing I like that I do every time because I had to switch over there, right? Before I switched over, I would run 50% to the Ezoic version, 50% to the AdSense version. Okay? So you can actually do that. Yeah, you can do a split test to see, are they really outperforming? Are they really making more money? And sure enough, they were pretty much every time. So I was doing that to make sure and verify it was a good switch. It took about 30 days because their machines have to learn like the best way to do it, So I would do that, and then after that, then it would switch. But you can one of the things I've done on some of my sites, I've limited the maximum amount of ads that they can have on the page, because I know that, hey, if they just fill it with 15 ads, I don't really want that, so you can do that. And I've done that with some sites too. So
I think there's definitely a balance there between getting some good revenue from your ads and then, you know, making your site look completely spammy and covered in ads, which is not going to be good for your visitors, because you want that balance where the visitor still has a good experience, but you still get to show them plenty of ads, I guess. So that's really interesting. Okay, well, I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything, haven't we? Yeah.
I think so. I feel bad about the noises behind me. It's killing me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the content and the stuff that you've been sharing has completely, you know, outweighed any background noise. That's fine, and we want to see pictures of the basement when it's all finished.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's really good. As I said earlier, do go check out Ron's channel. He puts up some really interesting videos. He's a friend of Doug, which is how we met. A lot of my viewers will know Doug's stuff as well. So yeah, and it's been great having you on, and thank you very much for sharing so much interesting and useful information.
No problem, Alex. Thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity, and I can't wait to have you on my YouTube channel as well. So.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll see you around.
All right, bye-bye.
So that brings us to the end of this video. I had a really good chat with Ron. I really enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I do read all the comments that I get, and I'll try and reply to as many as I possibly can. If you've not checked out Ron's channel yet, then you'll find it in the description, and you'll also find a link to his website. Go and check that out as well. If you're not already subscribed, you can do so by clicking on my face up there. Why not check out my vlog channel? Just click on my other face. And here are a couple more videos. They've been chosen specially for you. Until next time, bye for now.